I'm revealing 5 female tyrants who committed the ultimate betrayal. These aren't legends or myths. Let's start with the woman who literally poisoned her way to the throne. Dictator 5, Agrippina the Younger, Ancient Rome, 15 to 59 AD. Agrippina the Younger wanted one thing: to make her son Nero the Emperor of Rome. There was just one problem. Her husband, Emperor Claudius, already had a son from a previous marriage who was next in line for the throne. So Agrippina did what any ambitious Roman woman would do. She murdered him. In 54 AD, during a lavish feast, Claudius ate a plate of mushrooms prepared by his wife. Within hours, he was dead. Historians believe Agrippina poisoned the mushrooms with deadly toxins. Some accounts say she used a poisoned feather to make him vomit, then poisoned him again when he was weakest. Claudius died in agony, and just hours later, Agrippina declared her 16-year-old son Nero as the new emperor. But Agrippina's ambition didn't stop there. She began ruling Rome through Nero, making every major decision. She even had her face printed on Roman coins alongside her son, something no woman had done before. Her control lasted for 5 years, until Nero grew tired of her manipulation and had her assassinated. She was stabbed to death by his soldiers in 59 AD. Agrippina murdered to give her son power. Then her son murdered her to keep it. Dictator 4, Fredegund of Francia, 545 to 597 AD. If you think medieval Europe was all knights and chivalry, you've never heard of Fredegund. Fredegund was a servant who became Queen of Neustria by seducing King Chilperic I. But getting the crown wasn't enough. She wanted absolute power, and anyone who stood in her way died. Fredegund orchestrated the assassination of her stepson Merivek because he threatened her children's claim to the throne. She had him stabbed to death in a church, a place considered sacred and untouchable. Then she turned on her own husband. In 584 AD, King Chilperic I was mysteriously assassinated while returning from a hunt. 2 men stabbed him to death. Historians believe Fredegund hired the assassins herself. Why? Because as a widow, she could rule as regent for her young son. And she did, for 13 more years. During her reign, Fredegund was involved in a bloody 40-year feud with her rival, Queen Brunhilda. Their war killed thousands of soldiers and civilians. Cities were burned. Families were massacred. Fredegund personally ordered torture sessions. She had enemies strangled, drowned, and burned alive. One account says she had a bishop's hands cut off for opposing her. She died of natural causes in 597 AD, one of the few female tyrants who wasn't murdered herself. But her legacy of blood and betrayal haunted Francia for generations. Before we continue, if you're shocked by these stories, make sure you're subscribed to Tyrant Tales. Dictator 3, Olga of Kiev, Kievan Rus. Olga of Kiev wasn't just ruthless. She was creative with her revenge. In 945 AD, Olga's husband, Prince Igor of Kiev, was murdered by a rival tribe called the Drevlians. They killed him because he demanded too much tribute from them. The Drevlians thought they could force Olga to marry their prince and take control of Kiev. They sent 20 ambassadors to negotiate. Olga's response? She had them buried alive. But she wasn't done. She invited more Drevlian leaders to Kiev, promising to honor them with a funeral feast for her husband. When they arrived, she locked them in a bathhouse and burned them alive. Contemporary chronicles say 5,000 Drevlians died in the flames. Still not satisfied, Olga visited the Drevlian capital with her army. She pretended to make peace, then asked for a small tribute, 3 pigeons and 3 sparrows from every household. The Drevlians, relieved, happily gave her the birds. That night, Olga's soldiers tied burning cloth to each bird's legs and released them. The birds flew back to their homes in the city. Within hours, the entire Drevlian capital was engulfed in flames. Thousands more died. Olga killed an estimated 10,000 to 15,000 people to avenge her husband's death. Ironically, she later converted to Christianity and was declared a saint by the Eastern Orthodox Church. Yes, a saint who burned cities and buried people alive. Dictator 2, Empress Irene of Athens, Byzantine Empire. Empress Irene didn't just murder her husband. She blinded and killed her own son. Irene was originally Empress Consort, married to Byzantine Emperor Leo IV. When Leo died in 780 AD, their 10-year-old son Constantine VI became emperor, with Irene ruling as regent. But Irene didn't want to give up power when Constantine came of age, so she started a campaign to destroy him. She spread rumors that Constantine was weak and incompetent. She turned the military against him, and when Constantine tried to exile her in 790 AD, she plotted her revenge. In 797 AD, Irene's loyalists captured Constantine, on her orders. They blinded him with hot irons in the very room where he was born, a deliberate symbol of her dominance. The blinding was so brutal that Constantine died from his wounds shortly after. Irene became the first woman to rule the Byzantine Empire in her own name, not as regent, not as consort, but as emperor. She even insisted on being called emperor, not empress. She ruled for 5 years, making decisions that shaped the Byzantine Empire's future. But in 802 AD, her own advisors overthrew her. She was exiled to the island of Lesbos, where she died alone in 803 AD. Irene murdered her son to become emperor, then lost everything anyway. Dictator 1, Brunhilda of Francia. Remember Fredegund, the queen who murdered her husband? Her lifelong enemy was Brunhilda, a woman equally brutal. Brunhilda was a Visigothic princess who became queen of Austrasia through marriage. When her husband, King Sigisbert was assassinated in 575 AD, likely by Fredegund, Brunhilda took control as regent for her son. But Brunhilda's quest for power didn't stop there. Historians believe she was involved in at least 10 assassinations, including multiple members of her own family. She had her grandson's rival relatives murdered to secure their thrones. She ordered bishops executed for opposing her. She manipulated wars that killed thousands of soldiers. And when her enemies finally captured her in 613 AD, they gave her one of history's most brutal executions. At age 70, Brunhilda was paraded through the army camp on a camel, mocked and humiliated. Then she was tied to a wild horse by her hair, one arm, and one leg. The horse was whipped into a frenzy and dragged her across rocky ground until her body was torn apart. Brunhilda's 40-year reign of manipulation and murder ended in one of the most horrific deaths in medieval history. A brutal end for a brutal ruler. These 5 women prove that tyranny has no gender. From ancient Rome to medieval Europe, female rulers could be just as ruthless, manipulative, and deadly as any male dictator. If you want more shocking history like this, subscribe to Tyrant Tales and hit the bell icon so you never miss an episode.